Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia. Welcome back to another early game playbook video featuring the crew tyrant Dong Zhuo. So our previous guide on Dong Zhuo that covered a playstyle where we expanded in the northwest and holding the trade port as a choke point, I believe that strategy still works, even though there has been some major changes since the earlier patches. And one of the biggest change since our old guide is we have a different early game dilemma. Basically, since we hold the Han Empire and the Child Emperor hostage, after 5 turns or a year, we're given the option of becoming the regent, banishing the emperor, or killing the emperor outright. That was not in the game before. And that option actually gives us a lot of flexibility in how we play the game. And one of my Discord channel followers, Papa Jordan, actually suggested this playstyle to me. He was telling me how you could actually take advantage of the event to rush yourself to king very early in the game. And I took a look at what he was doing and I modified it a little bit. And here we are with this guide. So definitely a shout out to Papa Jordan for the inspiration. And what we're going to do is that we're going to set ourselves up to have one of the most flexible starts possible in the game while playing as Dong Zhuo or any other faction. So you heard about migration, all of those tactics. Well, none of them is going to be as good as this one. So definitely wait for it once we jump into game. So let's first talk about some of the background bonuses and faction specializations. So Dong Zhuo, being the crew tyrant, get -1 mustering turn and +9 morale when attacking. The increased morale when attacking is actually quite significant because of all the morale nerfs in the game. So +9 morale is actually a very big boost. -1 mustering turn gets your troop ready a little faster, but it's not significant, so we'll kind of ignore that one. Faction specialization, intimidation. This is a resource that you have that goes from 0 to 100. It's a decaying resource and it has many uses. It has 3 tiers. The lowest tier carries a penalty to public order and corruption, and the second and third tier has a bonus to public order and corruption. And what you want to use intimidation for is you want to use it on diplomatic cohesion, which is basically forcing people, giving you a set amount of diplomatic value in negotiations. You can increase this intimidation resource through raising settlements, executing characters from your own court, which is a different form of banishment that's unique to Dong Zhuo. Or you can use it to gain it through battle. So after every fight, you gain about 10 points intimidation. Sometimes you might overflow if you don't plan accordingly, so definitely keep track of intimidation. You can always use it to secure good diplomatic deals. You can trade it for gold. That's one of the old methods that we used throughout our Dong Zhuo campaign that was on the channel. And that's pretty much everything with intimidation. The decrease when promoting character doesn't really apply anymore because promotion has changed to the title system in patch 1.5, so that's one area where you don't need to spend intimidation, so that's a good news. Now some of the unique features, he has Sea-Down Cavalry, rank 3, and Heavy Sea-Down Cavalry available rank 6 for all generals. These are great cavalry units, they have very high shock value for charge bonus, and you're going to use them pretty much throughout your campaign as your main cavalry unit, unless you go pretty deep into the red reform tree, which you might because you start out next to a lot of horse pastures, and then you have access to cataphracts, which carries a little bit of extra armor, so they're going to be a little bit tankier than these units, but they'll lose out on some speed, so there's a trade-off there. But I think the cataphract's a little bit stronger, but these can be recruited on all sorts of generals, not only on vanguards, for any class, so they still have a lot of value here as your unique faction unit. You also have a replacement building chain for the conscription building. You have an in-force conscription. So this gives you additional bonuses. You have plus starting rank for new recruits, seasonal retinue redeployment limit, public order, mustering time discount, redeployment cost discount. Basically it gives you additional levels to the existing conscription building and provide additional benefits. Pretty good building. You can definitely build this in many of your food commanderies just to supplement some of the stats you get in terms of recruiting new units, public order, mustering time, redeployment cost discount, seasonal retinue deployment. They're all good stats you could use for your entire campaign. And lastly, we have Raise as a unique occupation option where you burn down the entire county that you're attacking to gain some intimidation points. We'll look at this in the game. And you have Coheres, which is to use your intimidation point in diplomatic deals to give you additional diplomatic points. You use 30 intimidation point at a time. to basically force deals through. And you have a lot of noteworthy characters. You have the legendary Lu Bu, warrior without equal. We have his sidekick, Zhang Liao, the heavenly dragon general. And you have Jia Xu, the man in the very tall hat, the blade in the dark. So aside from these characters, your court is pretty interesting. Most characters are very historically relevant. So we're not going to be firing anyone, and we don't really need to do that in our strategy here. So I can't wait to show you guys what we're going to do. And we're going to be showcasing this once again on Legendary 40 minutes. So let's go into the game. Alrighty, establish your power. Lord Dong Zhuo, you are wise to move west, protecting the Emperor from those traitors. Their coalition is all but spent now. They will face imperial justice in time, but first you must secure your position. Chang'an is well protected, but you must expand, crushing dissidents wherever it occurs. Although there are warlords still loyal to you and the Han, you must ensure their fealty never wavers. All traitors must be put to the sword. Strike back at the broken coalition around Yuan Shao. Consolidate your power. Alright, and our first mission is actually to take a settlement, Unding Toolmaker, slightly in the north. We'll take a look at that very soon. We get support from the people. Alright, so let's just take stock of where we start, because we do start with quite a few territories. We have our entirety of Chang'an, the capital, and the Jade Mine. It's a city. It's pretty high level settlement. We have a military infrastructure, which is actually kind of useless, so you want to demolish that right away. You have the Jade Mines, level 2, a pretty good source of industry and commerce income. You have the Silk Trader in Hanzhong to your west. Silk Traders are pretty good standalone counties. You don't actually need Hanzhong's commandery down here, which Zhang Lu holds. So it's fine just holding the Silk Trader. What you want is more Silk Traders. So you might look for a war with Ma Teng and Han Sui later on. But early on, I recommend just keeping them as your friend. Anding, you just have the large town. The counties are split between Yellow Turbans, Han Empire, and Deserted Territory. And our first mission is to take this Toolmaker from the Yellow Turbans. So pretty simple fight, given that we have Lu Bu and Zhang Liao with a pretty decent retinue here. Down here, we also have Luoyang's trade port. So even though we burned down the Imperial City, we still have a piece of the commandery here. And this is a very good choke point. So you can use this county right here to hold against many incursions from enemy forces, simply because you have about a lot of towers in this structure. You can easily use Li Jue, who has 15% extra movement speed on his armor. You can combo that with the mobility from his skill tree, next level up, and then he'll be able to run around super fast and kite enemies around the tower and defend this for a long time. You can even add Lu Bu in if you want to kill the enemy a little faster, because he'll be pretty much free in this strategy as well. So Lu Bu's tree is a little bit interesting. He changed it from the old patch. Now you don't have flexibility at the beginning, so you need 2 levels before you can get reach, which is a little annoying, because used to be you have this one and you just need 1 more level to get reach. That's one of the changes. But the good news is the skill that you picked up are all pretty useful, so nothing too bad here. So that's kind of where we stand in the beginning. And the strategy here is actually to do nothing until that event triggers on turn 5. Now, obviously we'll be still doing stuff, but we're just not going to be very aggressive. If we look on the map, we have enemies all over the place. You see this lime green, that's the Han Empire. They're all over the place, and we have enemies all over the place. All this dark red. So we'll have to deal with all this, and it's going to be a lot of diplomacy in this guide. And then we also can check out the items we start with. So not very good haul here. 2 common item, 1 bronze. So that's actually a very bad draw. Obviously you have the gold items on Lu Bu at the start. You always have a military jian on Zhang Liao. You also always have an iron archer as well as a stone pig. So those are the basic items you start out with. And you also always start out with a tunic. So that's kind of the item you have to trade, and you're going to need these items to trade, because the whole point in the beginning is actually a lot of diplomatic dealings. Also note that Zhang Liao starts out with a title, senior officer, is to keep him happy, but we're going to do something very different to keep him happy, so we're actually going to get rid of that from him. So before we do anything, we want to get deals done, because this is when our armies are strongest. We start out with a different ranking system. Chancellor of the State is our first level. We already start out with 4 armies, 3 assignments, 2 administrators, and 2 trade routes, plus 1 available spy position. And then we upgrade to Grand Master, which is pretty much equivalent to Duke. And then King is Emperor, same as most factions in the game. So the first thing we want to do is get some trade deals going. We have 3 available deals and a lot of enemies, but there's still some friendly faces who will deal with us, namely Han Sui and Ma Teng. So we are trading with them because our strategy is going to send our attention elsewhere in the beginning instead of the northwest focus we had in our last guide. So we're not going to turn on them as early as our old guide. So we want them to stay friendly with us for a relative long time, because we already have a deal in place with them in the beginning. So they're easier to talk to. Han Sui is the easiest to talk to, only minus 0.1. Everyone hates you because you're treacherous for usurper of the throne. You can't help this, so everyone's going to give you bad deals in the beginning. We can give him 20 gold to be exact here, and he'll be happy to sign this trade deal, netting us a little bit of income in the beginning. And then we're going to follow that up with Ma Teng, who's going to be a little bit more demanding here. There we go. 2.4. So you can obviously also look through their items if you want to trade with this, but it's going to be expensive just because the treachery status. So here I usually give him our only food, which is okay because we'll get more food very easily. And I tend to offer him about 40 gold per turn, which is exactly 0.9 that you need for this deal. I actually never made the comparison about 400 cash. Okay, it's actually cheaper to pay him cash, it seems. So maybe we'll do 300, 15, 25. There we go. So we save about 75 gold total, and we pay him this for this trade deal as well. And we still have 1 trade deal available, but if you take a look, all the pricing right now is ridiculous, and we're going to be able to secure multiple trade deals very soon. With our strategy, so we're going to leave that one temporarily open because I don't want to overpay for things. Even our vassal who likes us is going to demand a lot from us. 2.4 might not seem a lot, but Han Empire is very wealthy in terms of per turn income as well as food. So if you offer him like payment, right, you see all our gold is only equal 1.3. So unless we give him an item, which I don't want to do, it's impossible to get this deal through. So we're not going to offer him anything. We're just going to wait it out here. All right, so all the deals are done. The next step is to actually get your administrators done first, because we want to recall all our generals. So they'll go to cooldown if you recall them. So before we recall them, we want to get the administrator position filled up. Chang'an here is going to be commerce and industry, and the best person for the job is Zhang Liao. But don't worry too much because these jobs will be rather temporary. Eventually we're going to shift our focus down south. I'll show you guys how to do that very soon. But first, over here, what you want is you want Guo Si, who has a pretty decent peasantry income boost, income from all sources, and a little bit of construction cost reduction. Alright, so they're going in, and now we can start getting rid of retinues and just keeping the general back into our court. This way we can use them by summoning them anytime for free because we won't have any redeployment issues. So there's multiple ways you can use this strategy. There's one method I tested out where you can rapid expand up into the empty lands in the north by splitting this army in the beginning. So you would pull Zhang Liao out, have Zhang Liao siege the city, have Lu Bu come in as reinforcement, so Lu Bu will still have movement to move into Anding to get the farmland right away on turn 2, and then use the summoning trick with a number of generals recalled to get them to move to the edge, and then proxy another summon, get them moving to the horse pasture right away, and you can probably get all the way to the animal tamer before turn 5. That's definitely a valid strategy. But after testing out another method where we're much more passive, I think it actually worked out better because we can actually focus the gold on the counties we have at hand. And we don't really need this many counties in the beginning because we'll be getting tons of land. So much so that we have to give them out away. So that's a little spoiler, but let's first take this piece of land. And since we're not keeping the units, this can be just an easy delegate. You can easily use the generals to go in and fight a clean battle. You have Lu Bu after all. We get intimidation. You see we boosted up to 95. It only goes to 100, so there's definitely no need to raise. You definitely want to just occupy to take advantage of the income that's here. Alright, after this mission is your economy grows. We'll try to trigger that because it will go away by the time your first dilemma shows up on turn 5. So if you don't use it, you lose it, so there's no point to save it. Right now, if we take a closer look at our intimidation resource, at tier 3, which we're where we are at, you have 4 points of decay every turn. You get +8 public order, minus 25% faction-wide corruption. Very powerful. This is the normal tier, tier 2. This is where you'll probably stay in most of your game. You get +2 public order, minus 15% corruption. Pretty good. You don't want to be here. If you're here, you get -1 intimidation decay per turn, -6 public order, and plus 25% corruption. So this will ruin your economy, but what you want to do with your faction is you want to spawn rebels. You want to have a few dedicated commanderies spawning rebels by having very bad public order, whether that's through jacking up your tax rate, which is definitely a very valid technique you can use to spawn these rebels and have a few generals just sitting there killing them every few turns so that you can have battles frequently to farm intimidation, because you would like to be in these two range all the time. You don't want to be here. And when your leader die of old age or of battle, you'll drop to 0. So always have those farming opportunities ready to bounce back to at least above 30 points. So the break point is 30 and 70. So 30 points in the first bar, 40 points in the middle bar, and lastly 30 points in the top tier bar. So when you're about to overflow, like say if we have a battle coming right up and we're at 95, you want to spend your 30 points by cohersing with a friendly faction for some gold and then battling to go back. So you go 95 to 65, you do a battle, you go back to 75. And that's kind of how you want to play around with this bar here. So that's just a thing you have to keep note playing as Dong Zhuo. So the battle is done, the deals are done. We're going to recall all our armies just to save pretty much all the money we need to save until the dilemma triggers. We do have council, which is nice. Lu Bu is our Grand Commandant, and we can ask him for a council mission, and he's going to give us support from soldiery if we assign a character to Chancellor. We're not going to do that. Oh, Counselor. We're not going to do that just yet. It boosts peasantry. We don't need it right now. We can shuffle one of our administrators over if we are swapping administrators in the future. So that's when we're going to trigger that mission. For now, we're going to leave things alone. Now, we can talk about our family tree real quick. Dongmin is our brother. He is currently our heir. He doesn't have outstanding bonuses or even skills at this point. Nothing great on his trait. And his officer only give us 3 morale. But our wife is not really a great option either. She does have plus 5% income from all sources, which is okay. But she also has charitable. So she gives away food. -4 food. And right now, we can't handle that. If we have more food later on, we can switch and have Dongmin just kind of leave our faction, or we can marry him off for some points, but diplomacy is usually out of the window for us just because of the amount of treachery we have. So we're not going to get value by marrying him away. We can just maybe try to keep him happy through other means so he doesn't leave us, as family members now cost 0 salary. So they're still quite useful. So a few things we need to remember to do before we end turn is that remember that Zhang Liao is now administrator, so he's quite happy. Get rid of his title. He'll survive, save you a bunch of gold. And we can give him Iron Archer for cheaper building cost. We don't have any other items here. And we're going to come in here and try to trigger our economy growth right away. So ideally, we want a state workshop building here, and then private workshop, and shift this to industry and commerce, maybe even a forge in here. We don't need any of the food production. Right now it's nice to have because it's giving us just enough food to survive, including Unding's town. But we also have 3 assignments. So we're going to utilize the fact that we have peasantry income here for now by throwing our brother here so he can level up as heir. Throw our wife here so she can level up as our future heir. And then lastly, come back here and we're going to throw Li Ru here to boost some commerce income from just the mine. It's only 80, it's very low, but it's help him level up and keep him busy so he doesn't have lack of purpose and isn't angry with us going forward. Alright, so that's kind of the assignments you want to do. If you want to get rid of Xu Rong, you can. He doesn't offer very much in the early part of the game, but he's very good. He has cheerful, so he's usually, happy with you despite, his level situation. He has plus 10% chance of evading capture. He has plus 5% armor for own retinue, plus 3% replenishment for own army. He starts out with flexibility, very easy to get reach. I would just keep him, and historically, he was a great general for Dong Zhuo as well. So that's kind of our situation right now. Everything is pretty much set up. We have one building going. You can have a second building going at the same time if you want. It doesn't hurt, but eventually we're demolishing this, so I'd rather not. We'd rather focus on some other builds very soon after we trigger your economy growth because you get that discount. The reason why we have two builds is on the new patch we have 1 million population, so you get another build. And that's pretty much it for turn 1. I think we do start out with a spying option, so if you can see turncoats that you want, you can definitely keep an eye out. But usually there's no one good this early on, but definitely check it out every turn. And with that, let's continue. Alright, your economy growth triggers. Here's where things get busy. Next mission is Growing Might. Basically have 2 more units than you currently have. We have 0. We get this nice replenishment rate bonus. We'll try to take advantage of that later on. We have a list of characters. She is the bandit girl, right? She's usually the wife of Yan Baihu. If she's not a spy, bandits do start out with 1 spy position, so she could very well be a spy. I would just not recruit her, given the situation. Even though she has poison volley, we don't technically need her, and there's a good chance she's a spy because bandits do start out with a spying position. We got another item. That's fine. We're gonna spend our time focusing on building up our commanderies, so we want to pop in a private workshop here. We don't necessarily want the mine to be rushed. The port need to be upgraded ASAP. The higher level the port is, the stronger your defensive position is here. Silk Trader, might as well upgrade that as well. In this town, we could use more food. We could also upgrade this for some extra income. Both are fine. Both will finish in time for each other to, you can build both of these during your economy growth 2 turns and then switch over. So, and we're not in a rush to upgrade large towns to cities. Not only will we string our food, it also takes our defensive bonus away, so we can't actually I'm going to go for income first and also make it a little stronger defensively because the retinue for level 2 is very small, but for level 3 it's very big. It's a very big jump if you take a notice. You get a whole stack by upgrading. And also you don't need to rush food because we're not upgrading any of our towns, and if we need to defend it, let's say an enemy show up, just recruit Lu Bu or Li Jue or Zhang Liao or all 3, and you can hold anyone pretty much in the early game. And that's pretty much it. Make sure you are using your builds, and since we do have money left over, just go for the Jade Mine. So the strategy that was shown to me was to conquer all these land, and that's one way to spend your gold, but I find it better if you spend your gold on your existing commanders like this during the 3 turns of your economy grows. I feel just a little bit more efficient this way. So that's where we stand. Let's just continue. Alright, it's winter season. We got another build open up. We're gonna upgrade the private workshop. We're gonna tear down this government support, so next turn we can build an inn building here. Transition our economy over to the way we want things to be, and everything's going great. We can just simply continue here. Alright, spring season, we're 1 turn away from the big event, and we have Lu Zhi willing to work for us. That's great news. He's very useful. He starts out factionless in the 190 start. He can bounce around quite a bit, usually goes to Gongsun Zan, but he carries his unique unit from the Mandate of Heaven, and they're really, really good. So I would definitely recommend just hiring him. We definitely have the money to spend here. And you notice our food is getting hit from distribution. I'm guessing... I actually don't know why we're getting hit with this extra food demand, because we were fine even during winter. But the easy solution is actually just to do this, or even go all the way up, and you can get a lot more money. You could do this from the start. You have enough public order to tank most things. You lost reserve because you lost food. Maybe it was a winter thing. I didn't notice. Because I tore this down. That's what happened. Okay, mystery solved. Because we tore down the government support, we lost food. And we lost reserve, so now our rebellion's speeding up. But without the reserve situation, because it should bounce back because we have food surplus now, we'll be fine. Alright, we want to keep building. We're still on our, your economy grows right now. This needs a reform to level up, and that's exactly what we're going to grab. We're going to grab the extra trade route. Now you might think we're not taking full advantage of our current trade route. Why do we want another one? Because we'll be able to take advantage of it almost instantly next turn. And then we get this going. So basically we build up our existing territory from the beginning, with this setup here. And we recruited him, so that's good. And he's decently happy for now. He'll probably complain a bit later on, but we can use him for another use. Let's continue for now. Alright, so this is the big turn. So far we have done nothing, but here is the fate of the Emperor. The Han Emperor has been within your court for a year now. The people expect you to go through the ceremonies to legitimize your place as his regent, though some of your advisors suggest more drastic actions. So this was added into the game since our old guide. So it doesn't matter what faction you have. If you held the Emperor for a year, you have the option to pick from these three options. You can continue as the Prime Minister, and you basically stay regent, same as right now, until 3 years later, 15 turn, this event will trigger again. And you get a bonus for this 15 turn. You get extra prestige. You get minus 20 diplomatic relationship with all factions. You get plus 10 satisfaction with your court and plus 10% income from peasantry. That's not the route I'm going for here, because we don't want to keep the Han Empire right now as our current vassal, because they're currently our vassal because we hold the Emperor. We also don't want to kill the Emperor, because that would make everyone angry with us. We want to just banish the Emperor, and this frees us from being the vassal master of the Han Empire. So we're going to banish the Emperor, and thus ending the Han Dynasty. No more emperors, right? We don't have the Emperor, no one has the Emperor, he's not the Emperor anymore. Why are we doing this? The reason why we're doing this is we want the Han Empire not as our vassal right now. They were our vassal because we had the Emperor. That kind of deal is not the same as a regular vassalage. You can't annex them in that situation. You can slowly annex their land by walking up to it and paying them gold. That's the usual reward for holding the Emperor. But if you banish the Emperor is gone, they're just a regular faction. And they're a regular faction that actually shares a lot of enemies with you, because everyone that was fighting with you originally was also fighting them. So if you look at the relationship, everything is friendly. 61 war with our enemies, 14 for signed peace, 12 for treaties with our friends, past treaty with us, plus 94, right? So given this situation, he doesn't hate us for banishing the Emperor, which is strange, I give you that, but we can now properly annex him. Now you see, this feels impossible, right? Unreasonable offer, he's just not going to say yes. But what we're going to do is we're going to offer him stuff that we can get back once we vassalize and annex him. So whatever territory we have, we only can trade him 2, and that's enough. You could try to get more land to trade with, but I don't think you need it. You just need 2 here. You can give him a coheres. This spends 30 for 20 points. And then you want to just give him all the gold, all the food you can offer. It doesn't matter. Give him the food. Give him all your regular income. You don't want to make this payment because you're not going to get the cash back. But you can get all your per turn payment back because you don't actually have to pay him any of this. So you maximize that, and you see this is still not possible. So what you want to do now is issue an ultimatum on top of that. And you click the deal. If he says no, you go to war, but he's going to say yes. And you don't actually pay him anything. So the per turn income deal is gone. well, it's not gone yet, but all these deals are here, right? You have a peace deal, you have the food deal, you have the money deal, and you have the vassalage. You just come in here, and now you annex the entire Han Empire on turn 5. You gain a lot of annexation treachery, but I don't think it actually makes a difference because most faction hated you at 46. They're going to hate you at 96. They're going to hate you during the whole game. And you're just going to have to put up with that as Dong Zhuo because this isn't going away until 96 turns later. So, issue decoration, and we'll be able to absorb everything. And that's enough prestige to push us to Duke. I'm going to cut this out. No need to show that again. And the deal is done. And now we have a lot of problems, right? This strategy is just a very fun way to play things. And now is where the brainstorming part comes in. Because we have to be very smart about what we do next. So we get a bunch of early game missions that give us intimidation back, which is nice. Basically, we have to send characters on assignments. We have to control 2 units, which we do because we got all the armies from the Han Empire. Now, when you annex, the amount of generals you get back will vary each time. It'll be very random. Some will stay, some will leave. So here's the fun part first. Let's see who we get. And we become Grandmaster, which is Duke. So you always get their leader, Huang Fusong. He has Mo Ye. We got lucky here because this is something that was crafted during the first 5 turns through his weapon craftsmanship, and he has it. So this is a very lucky item. You usually don't have this. You always have his bow. So this is always here, which is nice. And you can kind of check through all the other generals you got from them. Some with interesting bonuses you could use, but most are very useless. That's the trend here. Our brother leveled up. You want him to pick up some of these leadership skills. And let's see, who else did we get? Alright, so this character is usually the wife of Huang Fusong, Ling Hu Pingning, and she will have not always a gold armor. This is obviously also from Armor Craftsman, so we've been getting very lucky on this test run. But she will usually steal this bow from Taishi Ci. Breath and Wind is Taishi Ci's starting golden bow. Because she's the heir of the faction, AI steals this from Taishi Ci, and she usually comes with the husband. So you get her. Now in this case, she hates us. That's fine. We just gonna fire her if she hates us. We just take the item away from her and tell her to leave us, and we're all good. Now, don't fire them yet. There's a lot of things you can do here. So let me tell you guys the pro and con of this strategy. The pro is you have a ton of land, and you can start out anywhere you want, right? We have no generals on the field except for the Han armies that we inherited, which we can disband easily, and we can kind of pick where we want to start out on in the game. Now, my advice is play the southern campaign. Here's a couple commanderies to keep. Badong, very, very good. You have harbor, you have income from iron mine, income from lumberyard, you have a good source of all 3 incomes, you have a port to help you trade. So if you can make this your capital, which costs quite a bit, it's definitely an option. But if you want to sustain your current trade route, keep your capital here, keep this trade port. This is what's giving you all the trade. The land route to the capital, plus a river route to all the other factions with trade ports. And this is why we can get a lot of trade deals done on this turn, because we have a lot of options. So that's a pro. Badong is very good. And next to Badong is Changsha. Sun Jian's not even back yet. He's building up an army. You want to build up your first army here. This is what I would do. Build up a big stack here with your cash and crush Sun Jian right off the bat. Wipe him out from the game, and you'll be able to control the south, essentially. With him gone, only Yan Baihu is at war with you in the south. Very easy to crush him. Bandits are not that strong, especially if you have good generals that can fight off Yan Baihu, who has a good weapon. So if you have a general like that, like Lu Bu, you're not worried about him, right? Sweep through the south, gain control of Badong, Changsha, which has a lot of commerce, also good capital location because it also has a trade port, and keep Lingling as your food down here. Lingling is also pretty good in terms of economy. You want to build this as a state workshop that reduce corruption reduction, and you have land development, government support, and maybe a conscription building, not conscription building, but a forge building to take advantage of the state workshop and the tool maker here to boost a little bit of extra industry income while also providing you items. So keep Lingling, keep Changsha, keep Badong, and keep Poyang. Poyang with its, 2 sources of industry, weapon craftsman, also very, very good. You have a rice paddy here, might as well keep it. And obviously you want to expand towards Jianye. So that's the south. Deep south, you have pieces of land here as well. My suggestions for this area here is you can either appoint one of the Han generals that you're not keeping as administrator and immediately granting them independence, thus gaining yourself a vassal and a potential trade partner. Or you can just sell off all the land to the neighbors because you're not at war with the Shi family. You're not at war with many of the members down south, but they're very likely to declare war on you soon, so you might as well butter them up with this land. The reason why you don't want to keep everything is because A, you can't afford to lose battles. Whenever you lose a fight, you lose intimidation. So you never want to lose territory that you can't defend. So it's better to give it to a vassal and let the vassal lose the land than let yourself lose the land. And then the biggest problem with this strategy in the beginning is you get so much corruption. This is the base corruption you have right now by having all this land, 76%. You can't handle this in the early game, right? Having extra land isn't giving you extra money. It's actually reducing your total income. So what I would do is just keep Badong, Changsha, Lingling, Poyang, and the farmland, the rice paddy here in Yuzhang. Sell all these off to the neighbors for a better relationship, preferably Shihuang over here because they're closer to us, or Shiwu over here. Basically, you want to butter up all your neighbors down south while you spend your first bit of energy taking out Sun Jian and Yan Baihu. Over here, we're pretty much going to be looking at, our land versus people who are not at war with us. All the greens are land. So give Jiangling to Cai Mao. Give all of this to Huangzu. Give these 2 pieces of land to Liu Biao. So these 3 will not go to war with you and will buffer you. They'll be very big. Most of the land give to the vassals because Liu Biao is very likely to be taken over by Liu Bei once he dies of old age, and that can create different problems later on, but the vassal land are safe. So give this land to Cai Mao, give these land all to Huangzu. You create some very interesting positions on the field this way. You can give this Guangling trade port to Zhang Chao, give this fishing port to Tao Qian, who's not at war with you. These 2 are stuck. Donglai is a situation where you're stuck because Kong Rong's not willing to peace out with you. Right now, it's very hard to get a peace deal. For some factions, it's possible because you can give them the territory and then give them some items. But even if we give them all of Donglai, which is the only territory that borders them, the value is still very difficult. So the best option here is, let's say we pick out a character that we don't like. Let's say she doesn't like us. She has a grudge against us. So we don't want a character who has a grudge against us because then they just hate us as a vassal. That doesn't work. So let's say him. He doesn't have a grudge, right? Usually when you annex, there's a chance they get a grudge or there's a chance they don't get a grudge. And he doesn't have a very good tree for a character that we want on the battlefield. He has a pretty big retinue, so he'll definitely keep it safe. What you want to do is this. You want to go into the commandery. You want to demolish all the buildings. And if you're patient, you can wait a turn, but don't do that. Just speed things up. You get half of the price if you rush it. So basically you get half of the demolished value. And then at this point, when you stripped it down, you appoint your man. So in this case, we wanted him. And then we go in here and we grant independence. And we have a very happy vassal who will lose the land for us and will also providing us a possible trade. It's going to cost us a little bit, but it's a lot easier because we have tons of food to trade with. We have tons of items. It's just easier to trade with them than all these enemies on the field. But this is what we basically have to do, right? This piece of land goes to Gongsun Du. these pieces of land is very difficult because there's no friends around. So we have to find someone who's willing to crack. I don't want to create vassals here just to die immediately. This one can hold off for a little bit. So we can use these lands to look for a friend, and the easiest person to talk to is actually Liu Yu. So you see 60, okay, it's different every game. Let's see, Gong Sun Zan, what's he want? 70 something? 68. Han Fu sometimes is very reasonable. Yeah, okay, in this case he's very reasonable. It's not always the same factions, you still want to check. Sometimes I seen Liu Yu with 20, sometimes I seen Han Fu with -60, so depends. And what you want to do is just give all the cities nearby, because I'll show you guys the salt mine. All the counties will be negative for the AI for some reason. You can only trade up to 4, similar to ancillary items. So you see this one's negative, so just take that one out and, you know, promise him a combination of food and items that you don't need. In this case, all these you don't need, just to lower the cost down a little. And then give him a lot of cash, give him some food, maybe just 1 or 2 food depending on if he needs food or not. So he doesn't really need food, 1.1. Give him some cash value, he's not that rich. Alright, that's way more than what needs to be happening here. What's the amount? Alright, 850. Huh. Come on. Alright, we'll give him 0.1 for free. That's fine. Alright, he pieced out, and once he pieced out, you can dump the rest of the land on him too, and you can get things back at this point. So maybe he'll give us a trade route, right? And then we just give him some more territory, because we don't want to keep any of this. Now some of these are negative. Actually, most of these are probably negative. Okay, one of them's negative, and then he's willing to pay us for the rest. So you could do this in batches maybe, because you want to get like the +5, or maybe you don't. Yeah, you got to play around with the values. They're not the same every time. We got what? Iron mine, fishing port, salt mine. Let's throw that in there, and then we'll get some cash back, I guess. He's pretty wealthy now. Yeah, so much land. There we go. And you got a trade route right there. And then you have other land that's difficult. So if, let's say this piece of land, if you can't make any of the neighbors peace out with you, then give it to a vassal so that they die instead of you losing it and then losing intimidation. So here, preferably if he, so in this case, he's very angry. He can't really peace out. What about Yuan Shao? That's not happening. What about Liu Dai? Alright, so in this case, we can't really force anything here. So what you want to do is just pick out another general that you don't need. So in this case, he's not very good. He's on the field. Let's pop him in. And then send him on his way. And he can go die for you right here. You can liberate them if you want to spare them the fate. And they're not going to get you into trouble with any wars because you're already at war with them. If anything, if they go to war with them, we can defend them and actually build up our trustworthiness. So that's what you can do. And over here, same thing. If you can peace out with Zhengjiang, it'll be nice. You can't, which is fine. So you can create your own buffer zone. Create a vassal here. Same idea. Give them Sihe, so they can just tank up losing the counties for you. You still be defending the Troke here. That's why we kind of leveled it up previously. And over here, you can appease them or destroy them. Right now, they're pretty happy with you. So because of the early trade route, you probably don't need to do too much. And it depends on if Matung can beat Gongdu or not. Things will be very different. Down here, this piece of land you don't want. You're trying to get rid of land because you're suffering through corruption. So remember to give these land over to Liu Biao one at a time because this one doesn't neighbor it. Give this to Cai Mao, give these to Huangzu, give this to Tao Qian, give this to Zhang Chao, and give these away to them. We're not going to showcase that. And then just give these land away to Jia Long and Liu Yan because you're not at war with them. So make friends. Use the land to make friends. Make sure you keep the weapon craftsman, and that's about it. And then you can just continue the game with a patch of land up north and a patch of very, very nice land down south. Build out your first army here, crush Sun Jian, and carry on with your campaign. It's a very different experience, and it's going to be a very interesting experience because you're kind of king making in the beginning, depending on who you give the land to. Like you could choose to give all these land to Liu Yan. You can choose that I'll give all these land to Zhang Lu. You can choose to give all these land to Ma Tong or Han Sui. You know, you have a lot of freedom here. And then you can move on and focus your effort down south, which is the more lucrative commanderies, and bring your battle to the north. It doesn't matter if this coalition is at war with you, because they have to travel through all this way to attack you down in the south. If they attack you over here, just try to stall them in the trade port. If they break through and take your capital, it's okay, because you're currently only a duke. Losing the capital doesn't lose your emperor seat. It actually just moves your capital. So if you're efficient with getting rid of all your land, your capital will automatically shift down south. Whereas if I want to move the capital right now, it's going to cost me 20k. So it's okay to lose the land over here. And the idea of getting rid of all these land will lower your prestige, which would hurt you, but hurts you from getting king, but doesn't actually lose you the title of Grand Master. You won't drop back down to Chancellor. So you still have the benefit of having a Prime Minister position, and you have the benefit of having these 5 positions where you can use the faction council for a long time, because you won't be hitting king for a while because you're giving away all your territory. So you can actually enjoy those bonuses for a long time. So that's also very nice. And this is just a very interesting start. And it's flexible too. If you don't want to keep the south, that's fine. Give it away to these factions and start out in this deep corner if you want. If you want to jump into the thick of things in the north, you can give away the other land. So you can kind of flex how you want to play this through this method. And I found that very interesting and refreshing. And I hope you guys get to enjoy this play as well. So see you guys next time. Bye!